A man takes a deep breath, aiming at his zombified wife. He had hoped to end it all and start anew, but Morgan couldn't bring himself to pull the trigger. It was this moment of hesitation that led to tragedy. His son encountered his mother turned zombie during a search for supplies, and he couldn't bring himself to shoot. Ultimately, his son lost his life. Since then, Morgan has been consumed by grief and self-hatred for not pulling the trigger. Slowly, his mental state deteriorates, and he becomes increasingly delusional and irritable. This episode serves as a prelude to Morgan's character development in the upcoming storyline. It explains why he has such a powerful fighting force and shows a good nature. As Morgan descends into madness, he roams the area day after day. Any zombie that comes near him is ruthlessly slain. He hates zombies, he also hates everything in this world. He heaps up and burns all the corpses as if these actions could alleviate his guilt. In the days to come, the area where he burned the zombies was filled with spears as a temporary living quarters. This madman not only shows no mercy towards the zombies but also becomes merciless towards other humans. Anyone who comes near him is coldly killed. Within Morgan resides a demon he can no longer control. His actions are driven by an uncontrollable force. He continues to live this life day in and day out, killing heaps of zombies. Almost everyone who has encountered him has met their demise. Morgan arrived at a picturesque location, but slowly, he began experiencing hallucinations, as if he was battling a demon within him. It wasn't until a distant goat's cry snapped him back to reality. Immediately, he followed the sound to investigate. There, he discovered various containers set up as alarm devices, indicating the presence of someone. Morgan cautiously approached the area. As he took a few steps, noticed that the sound is getting louder. In front of him were two wooden houses with a small sheep pen in the yard. Morgan carefully surveyed his surroundings and, finding no one, he stealthily prepared to take the sheep with him. Just as he was about to reach for it, a man's voice interrupted him. The voice lacked malicious intent, using a gentle tone to persuade, but Morgan couldn't see where the person was. The man cautiously revealed himself, only to be greeted by a barrage of gunfire. It didn't matter who you were, the man's voice continued, suggesting that Morgan should lower his weapon and share a meal. Judging by his appearance, Morgan seemed to have been wandering for a long time. Morgan paid no attention to his nonsense. The man could not imagine how dangerous Morgan was in that moment. He persistently tried to persuade Morgan with his voice that he wanted him to be friendly. Seeing that Morgan was resolute,
Sorry.
when Morgan woke up, he found himself lying on the ground with food nearby but locked in a cage. At that moment, the man entered, walking and questioning Morgan about his information. However, Morgan had only 3 words to say.
Kill me.
The man walked over and tossed a book to Morgan, introducing himself as Eastman. Just as he finished speaking, there was a commotion outside, likely caused by zombies triggering the alarm system. Curious, Morgan looked outside and witnessed the man's impressive agility, especially his extraordinary skill with the stick. It was this man who became a turning point in Morgan's life. In the days that followed, Morgan received a daily portion of food and continued to mutter to himself. Eastman remained busy with his own tasks, seemingly understanding Morgan's state. Each day, Morgan would watch the man exercise his staff skills in the morning, silently memorizing a few moves in his mind. He never opened the book on the floor. Time passed, and the man's life remained mundane, repeating the same routine every day. Gradually, Morgan grew calmer. Eventually, Eastman took the time to have a proper conversation with him. He knew Morgan was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and the reason for keeping him locked up was because he saw a reflection of his own past in him. Eastman wanted to help Morgan reintegrate into real life. Eastman opened the cell door, allowing Morgan to leave whenever he wished. However, Morgan's first action upon exiting was to attack Eastman. The two wrestled with each other, with Morgan acting like a raging bull, blindly charging forward. In the end, Morgan even shattered a painting on the wall. Eastman no longer showed mercy and swiftly gained the upper hand. Looking at the broken words on the ground, the only remnant left by his daughter, Eastman almost couldn't resist delivering a fatal blow, but he restrained himself. Eastman didn't lock Morgan away anymore. None of it seemed to matter, but Morgan walked back in on his own accord. Eastman picked up the painting from the floor and left the house. In the evening, while Eastman was working on something, he spoke to Morgan, introducing him to the staff style called Aikido, a peaceful martial art. The next day, Eastman went out to search for supplies. Finally, Morgan opened the book that had been lying there. The book stated that Aikido was the way of non-killing. Even when facing the most wicked individuals, one must completely avoid taking lives. Eastman believed in these principles, and that's why Morgan had managed to survive until now. It touched something inside Morgan. At that moment, the alarm outside started ringing, and the sound of the small sheep grew louder. Morgan couldn't ignore it. He took the initiative and rushed outside, dealing with 2 zombies, and then sat down on the ground, lost in thought. It was his clearest moment in a long time. Eastman noticed Morgan's progress and praised him, thanking him as well. When he got back inside, Eastman pulled out a spearhead and said, "This is the one you used to use. I cut the spearhead off. You don't need it anymore." He then handed him a well-crafted staff, a modification of his long spear. Morgan looked at it and then accepted it. The man's magnanimity earned Morgan's admiration and respect. This staff became one of Morgan's most important weapons. In the days that followed, Morgan started learning how to cultivate the land, embracing the tranquility of this new life. Eastman imparted the teachings of Aikido to Morgan, hoping to help him quell the violence within his heart. Every life has value, and this is what makes Morgan's compassion so compassionate. He believed that even the most wicked individuals could undergo transformation, just as he had. If it weren't for his mentor giving him a chance, Morgan would have perished long ago. Morgan's skills with the staff also improved day by day, occasionally gaining the upper hand in combat. Though they didn't have a formal master-disciple relationship, Eastman held nothing back and would impart wisdom to Morgan during their leisure moments. He understood that Morgan wasn't inherently evil but rather trapped within his own world. One day, Eastman mentioned the need for more supplies, such as waterproof fabric and pry bars, which could be found at the nearby beach. Morgan indicated that he knew where there was one, and naturally the place he said was where he had been stationed before. They swiftly arrived at the location, and luckily, Morgan's backpack was still there, containing the waterproof fabric they sought. The surrounding spears served as their pry bars. As they gathered the supplies, Eastman took notice of the various writings Morgan had left behind and gently inquired about his wife and son. He wanted Morgan to confront and accept this painful truth. Witnessing Morgan's emotional response, Eastman proposed an immediate training session in Aikido right there. The two stood face to face and began their practice, a meditative process in itself. Eastman is truly an exceptional master. Not only did he teach Morgan martial arts, but he also pulled him out of his emotional turmoil. At that moment, a zombie emerged from the woods. Morgan came over and used his Aikido skills to face his first real fight. However, when he looked closely, he realized that the zombie was the child he had strangled before, triggering a flood of memories. Eastman saw Morgan standing still and rushed to his rescue. Unfortunately, tragedy struck as Eastman got bitten by the zombie. After killing the zombie, Eastman calmly looked at his wounds without any hysterical accusations, not even a mention of. Instead, Morgan's angry shouts revealed his concern. Eastman just said calmly, "Let's go home." However, Morgan, consumed by grief, didn't want to return. The master and disciple fought once again, with the predictable outcome. Eastman packed his things, preparing to leave, while still trying to encourage Morgan to break free from his past. After a while, Morgan resumed his old habit of wandering in the woods with his spear. Soon he finds a zombie and quickly kills it, inadvertently saving a couple in the process. However, he remained on guard, clutching his spear. The woman, visibly frightened, gestured for him not to attack and then took out a can of food and a single bullet from her backpack. It was clear that those were all they had left.
Thank you.
Those 3 words softened Morgan's gaze, and the essence of Aikido appeared in his mind. He returned to the previous location and picked up the staff Eastman had given him. Now, the most important thing was to check on Eastman. When Morgan arrived back at the cabin, he found that the zombies had devoured the goat, leaving him feeling disheartened. Carrying the goat's body, he went to the graveyard. Eastman, upon seeing this, felt a touch of sadness but quickly found solace. Morgan returned the small book to Eastman and kindly advised him to take a rest. Fearing exhaustion later, they then went back to the house. Eastman, aware of his limited time, entrusted his lucky item to Morgan and offered him some words of blessing. The next day, Morgan packed his belongings and set off. This mentor awakened him with his own life and imparted the final lesson to him. Morgan also inherited Eastman's spirit of not killing people. He walked for who knows how long and never went insane again. Aikido had given him faith. Along the railway, he saw an advertisement for the end station and later arrived at a church, obtaining a map. This is what saved Daryl.